A Russian chronicle tells of the night fire consumed the temple of Veles at Rostov. As the flames spread, witnesses swore the god's stone idol stood up and walked out of the burning temple like a living man. As he passed along the shore, the lake boiled, throwing up fish. His own high priest, a man named Raduga, fell to his knees and begged the god not to abandon his shrine. The god's answer scorched the priest's hair from his head, and where it had been, a dog's head grew. Chronicles are not court records, but listen to what this story is really telling you. Centuries after Christianization, people were still telling tales where Veles does not die, he walks away. This is the god who survived the death of his own religion, 3 times. Last episode we met Veles in a treaty, the Rus swearing their oaths by Perun and by Veles, the god of cattle, in the year 971. Cattle god sounds like a small job. It wasn't. In the old world, cattle were money, and Veles ruled everything that wealth touched. Everything below, everything outside the fences. Start with where his idol stood. When Prince Vladimir raised his pantheon in Kiev, Perun's idol stood on the hill beside the prince's hall. Veles' idol stood down low in the city by the river near the marketplace. The geography is the theology. Perun belongs to the prince and the law. Veles belongs to the traders, the herdsmen, the money-changing hands. But follow his name deeper and it gets stranger. The root tangles through words for pasture and for the dead, because the Slavic underworld wasn't fire and punishment, it was a meadow. An endless green pasture where the souls of the dead graze like herds, and Veles was their shepherd. The same god minding your cattle was minding your ancestors, wealth and death, one portfolio. And one more thing grazed in his domain, words. The old Rus term for a sorcerer, Volk, may carry his name. The epic tale of Igor's campaign calls Boyan, the legendary bard, the grandson of Veles. Magic, divination, poetry, music, the crafts that reach into the unseen, all answered to the god below. In parts of Croatia into the 20th century, wedding musicians would not play a note until wine had been poured onto the roots of a tree. Nobody could say why anymore. The toast was older than the memory of who it was for. Scholars looking at this portfolio, shapeshifter, boundary crosser, lord of wealth and the dead, patron of cunning crafts, keep reaching for one word, trickster. Every mythology has one. The Norse have Loki. The Greeks have Hermes, also a shepherd god, also a guide of dead souls, also a patron of thieves and eloquence. The resemblance to Veles is uncanny. A recent academic study put Veles through the full trickster checklist: ambivalence, shapeshifting, boundary crossing, mischief, and concluded that of all the Slavic gods we know, he has the greatest potential to be the Slavic trickster. Note the careful wording, potential. The sources are too thin for certainty, and we'll always tell you when that's the case. But the trickster reading explains the thing that confused us in episode 1. Why the Rus swore their most binding oaths by a god of cunning and mischief. Because tricksters aren't villains. They are mediators, the only figures who can cross between the worlds, carrying wealth up and the dead down. You swear by Perun because he'll strike you. You swear by Veles because he holds the other half of everything. And his punishment, remember, was the jaundice. May we become yellow as gold. The god of wealth curses you with the color of it. Then came the year 988. Vladimir converted, and the gods he had raised were torn down, dragged, beaten, thrown into the rivers. The life of Vladimir records Veles' fate specifically. His idol was cast into the river Putchena. For most gods in history, that's the end. The temples close, the names fade, and a century later nobody remembers. That is not what happened to Veles. What happened instead is the strangest career move in European religion. He split into 3. First, the devil, Veles' underworld half-darkened into the Chort, the horned folk devil of Slavic tales. In Old Czech, centuries after Christianization, people were still swearing by him without knowing it. What devil or what Veles has set you against me? His name survived as a synonym for the fiend. One Czech translation of the Bible even wishes a nagging wife would fly off to Veles over the sea. But here's the tell that he was never simply evil. In Slavic folk tales, the devil is often the helper, the wealth giver who aids the hero. The trickster's grin, showing through the devil's mask. Second, Saint Blaise. The cattle protector half couldn't be demonized, farmers needed it too much, so it migrated into Saint Blaise Vlasi in Russian. A name that sounds like Volos for a reason. In the city of Yaroslavl, the first church built on the site of Veles' shrine was dedicated to Saint Blaise, heavenly patron of herds. Same job, same address. New name on the door. Third and strangest, Saint Nicholas. In Eastern Slavic folk tales, the giver of wealth, the slightly cunning miracle worker who rewards the poor, that role kept sliding onto St. Nicholas. The wealth-giving trickster canonized, and yes, when you leave gifts under a tree in December, some scholars trace that chain of associations, link by link, back toward a horned guard by a Slavic marketplace. We'll flag it honestly. That last link is speculation, not settled scholarship. But the documented links, the devil, Blaise, Nicholas, are in the sources. 1 guard, 1 demolition order, 3 survivals, a devil for his darkness, a saint for his herds, a saint for his gifts. The trickster's last shapeshift was the one the church never caught. Some Slavic languages preserve one more trace. The Pleiades, the little knot of stars that herdsmen used to time the seasons, carried names like Veles. The hairy ones, the guard thrown into the river in 988, may still be hanging in the night sky. The votes from last episode are in, and the winner gets the next deep dive, so if you haven't voted yet, the poll is in the comments: Mesopotamian, Polynesian, or deeper into the Slavic world. If this one earned it, hit like, it genuinely helps the channel get found. Subscribe with the bell so you don't miss what's next. The archive is just getting started.